It's been 100 years since the horrific murder of Florence Small and the burning of Frederick and Florence Small's cottage. That tragic event aside, the mountain view is as spectacular today as it was in 1916. And the smell of that pine scent, it's as strong as it was in the 1950s. No matter where in the world I go, whenever I smell a strong scent of pine, it takes me right back to the shores of Lake Ossipee, New Hampshire. This is the train station where Ed Connor, the high school principal, and Frederick Small left on a train bound for Boston to sell some insurance. Little did Frederick know, or maybe he did, that about 10 hours later, while he was taking in a movie and eating a large portion of scallops and beer, that his cottage in Ossipee was engulfed in flames with his wife still inside. This is the final resting place of Florence Small, or at least for part of her. Part of her will always be entombed within the fieldstone foundation of her lakeside cottage. Frederick Small bought a half casket for her body to lay her to rest. He was amazed that there was anything left at all after the fire that she'd been through. It's a beautiful spot just the same, up on a hill. I bet the foliage is magnificent in the fall.
Interest in the Small trial spanned from New York City to Boston to Portland, Maine, which made space scarce inside the courtroom. Frederick's alibi was airtight, and he actively conferred with his lawyers in his defense.
This is the courtroom where the Small murder trial took place. It was actually the first trial to ever take place in this Carroll County courthouse because this courthouse was built in 1916. Now, there was a really interesting configuration of the tables. Believe it or not, the prosecution was seated right here in these chairs, and then the defense was directly in front of them. This is where Small and his attorneys would be sitting. Now, right next to the jury box and the witness stand was a table that had Florence's skull and her stomach contents in view. Now, there was a hospital screen in front of it that kept it out of view for most of the time, but a lot of the times it was displayed as an exhibit. And Judge Kivel would strongly recommend to the women in the courtroom to leave. And most of the women did obey his orders. Who could believe that a simple fieldstone foundation could impact so many people's lives in such a profound way? Now that we've visited a few of the landmarks associated with the Perfection to a Fault story, I'm sure you're going to want to know the whole story just like I did. Some say that Florence still resides in her lakeside cottage, even though she was extremely lonely when she lived there. If you decide to take a trip to the Lake Ossipee region, which I strongly suggest you do, be sure to give a wave at the Small cottage. You never know.
Sea Tales Publishing Company is excited to present the second printing of Perfection to a Fault. It's the exact same story that was so favorably reviewed by Publishers Weekly and Kirkus Reviews, among others. A new cover design and a much-requested photo gallery have been added to the second printing as the 100th anniversary of the story approaches. You can pick up your copy of the second printing at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, or from your favorite bookstore.